And welcome to this month's edition of Let's Talk About It. All right, so we're not going to beat a dead horse with this. I'm going to try to appeal to maybe some different thought patterns, if you will, that maybe folks haven't thought about. But the topic we're talking about here today is PFDs, personal flotation devices, life jackets, whether or not to wear them. And when it's outside the rule sets, and is it really a personal choice? Is it a matter of comfort? Does being a strong swimmer have, a bearing on this? So on and so forth. Now, if you troll around the internet long enough, you're going to see all kinds of arguments on this. I think it is important for me to, for those of you who know me, you're aware of this, but I did serve a period of time on the Larimer County Dive Rescue Team, a very, very awesome, amazing time where we were dispatched for water-related incidents, be that recoveries, rescues, swift water, lakes, you name it. And so I do have some formal training in that background area there. And so I, of course, have a very strong opinion on this. My children have grown up with rules that I imposed when being around the water, be it on boat, be it in a kayak, be it on a personal watercraft, you name it. And yes, that was my choice to raise my kids that way. But this argument goes a little bit further here, and I want to try to address some of these things. If I upset you with some of the statements I'm about to make, good. If you agree with me, good. The whole point of this is to create discussion and for, as I said, to try and maybe give a different side view. So let's talk about this. PFDs, personal flotation device. The rules state in tournament fishing that if your motor is if your motor, the main motor is in gear, you have to have a PFD latched, zipped up, whatever, and on. That's what the rules state. Some folks will, adhere to this religiously. Other guys, kind of dance around it. Some guys, if they're not tournament fishing, don't ever wear it when they're out boating. Kayaking, I personally witnessed something today that just baffled me. But I've seen some guys, some folks choose to, or out paddleboarding. Some folks choose to wear PFDs, some do not. One of the cutest ones I've seen is with folks out paddleboarding, and they have the PFD strapped to the front of their craft. Thinking that this, provides them quick and easy access should they need it. This is the part where, let's start breaking into this. Common sense can go a long, long way. Now, there's no laws in place that state one thing or another. There may be rules for certain sanctioned events, but there are no laws in place for this, much like not every state has a helmet law. Federally speaking, there is a seatbelt law for public safety, mainly because, what drove that to becoming law to this was the cost of insurance and covering these costs. When insurance, went hand in hand with that, that insurance became a law that you had to have insurance to drive a vehicle because of monetary situations. But let's start. I mean, if you take a quick look at the statistics that are out there, and this is another, Lord knows in this landscape of social media and opinion, statistics are not opinion. Statistics are information that is gathered from factual data. Okay? That's what a statistic is. It is a mathematical, conclusive. You can't, just because you may not like the stat, You can't sit there and try to pan this off to go, well, that's, Fox News, that's CNN. Nope. Statistics are not, derivatives of opinion. They're brought from actual, facts, things that we know to be true. So regardless whether you like these stats or not, they're truth. They are the real fact of the matter. A statistic is that 10 out of 10 times, if I drop this pencil, it will fall to my desk. No surprise. Let me read you a couple statistics, and this is coming from the U.S. Coast Guard Accident Statistics Reports. This is the governing body that tries to gather information. Roughly each year, there are more than 600 boating fatalities from boating accidents. Okay, percentage speaking wise, considering how many people are out boating, that's not a large number. Okay. In the cases of these fatalities where the cause of death was known, 86% of drowning victims in recreational boating accidents were not wearing a life jacket in the year 2019. Now, we all know when COVID hit, it skyrocketed the number of people that were on the water enjoying that. 86% of the drowning victims. All right. Drowning is the reported cause of death in all of the boating fatalities that took place at roughly 80%. So of the boating fatalities that took place, roughly 80% of them drowning was the cause of death. Not, hard trauma from being hit by a boat or run over. Drowning. And of the drowning victims, 86% of them were not wearing a PFD of some kind. These numbers are not based in opinion. There's a common denominator here. Okay. Not wearing a PFD when involved in certain types of recreational activities that put you in harm's way is just not smart decision making. Okay. It's just not. You have an avoidable situation here. You have a way to protect yourself in a major way, regardless. You'll notice out of all those statistics about drowning and so forth, it didn't say that this percentage were weak swimmers. Because let me tell you something, folks. This is something I have firsthand knowledge of. If you come out of your watercraft or off of your watercraft, chances are it's not going to be the ideal situation where you're going to have all of your wherewithal about you to engage that top line high school swimming career you once had, or that fantastic, cardiovascular system that you have is going to be shocked by the instance that you're going into that water. Having your feet tangled up into gear or line or weeds or trees or anything. I don't care how good of a swimmer you are. It doesn't matter at that stage. And if it does, it'll be a very small percentage. Having a PFD on will at the very least keep your upper body out of the water so that you can attempt to calm down, get your bearings about you, and enact a self-rescue. When rescue swimmers are deployed on emergency service water-related incidents, the number one piece of equipment that we were given to wear, whether we're on shore duty or whether we're going in the water, was a PFD. Why do you suppose that is? I guarantee you that I had the opportunity to work with some of the strongest swimmers and some of the most adapted aquatic, human beings that you will ever encounter in your life. Some of these guys were literally at Olympic level swimming. And on any mission, on any situation that we were deployed to, I guarantee you a PFD was the first thing that went on. Or nobody would be entering that water unless we had a PFD on, be that executing swift water, be that, surface swimming, didn't matter. The PFD would be on before we got in the water. If we walked out of our vehicle and went to the shore to say work shore safety or work victim interviewing, a PFD was on whether I was 5 foot from the water or 500 feet. This became, because what that ingrilled into us is it taught us that this is a needed tool to protect ourselves from this. Now, there's been an argument thrown around out there. People say it's my choice. It's my choice to wear a PFD or not. And here's what I will return to you. And I'm going to actually be respectful in my reply to you. Your choice affects other people. Your choice affects your family members. It affects you. It affects other people that are out there at the lake. It affects the possibility of dispatched rescue workers who need to come find you should something horrible happen on the water. Your choice is not just your choice. Now, if you don't have a single family member whatsoever, then at the very least, think of the first responders that are going to be dispatched to come either rescue or recover you should something horrible happen when you're out. This next response that I saw online, I'm going to go ahead and insult a few people because this was absurd to me. I heard a response from a few people in some of the groups that I'm a part of when posed with that about the rescue workers. Their response was, no one's forcing those rescue workers to come get me. That's their choice. They made that choice to join and perform that work. If they're not interested, they don't have to. You arrogant, insert as many other insultive words as you could find. How can anyone think that about these first responders? Do you think for one given moment that a first responder joins up and says, man, I hope I can go on as many dangerous and life-threatening missions as humanly possible? If you think that, then shut this video off. Please unsubscribe. Don't, oh my Lord, because it's pointless speaking to somebody who could think that about these first responders that are out there risking everything to help take care of people that are in need or bring closure to families when someone makes a bad decision or when bad circumstances unfold. These first responders are not out there with the thought that they want to go into these life-threatening or dangerous situations. They do so because it's part of their job that they agreed to sign up with, yes. But when you are doing something to create a life-threatening situation that could have been avoided because of your choice, who's really the dope here? Who's the one that we should be pointing to? What is your response to say, well, I guess we don't need any first responders if they don't want to come out and get me? Do you think they even care who you are? You are a person in need. They're going there because it's something they've agreed to do to help their local communities. So that response, quite frankly, belongs in the trash can where it was sourced in the very beginning. First responders, family members, somebody, friends, someone out there loves you, cares about you, and wants you to come home. And it's a simple maneuver here. And before somebody gets too far deep here, I want you to understand something and associate something. If you go rock climbing, there is no law that says you need to check your gear before you go. None. But I promise you this, if you go rock climbing and you have faulty gear, you've just exponentially increased the chance that something bad is about to happen. And most of you who are of the my choice crowd would probably never go rock climbing. And why is that? Because chances are the danger that you see is clear and present and right in front of you in the form of a 100-foot drop. But if you approached water related to say that, you know what? Every time we go out and enjoy ourselves on the water and we're involved with other public or weather, there's a 100-foot drop sitting right in front of you, folks. I'm telling you that right now. So do yourself a favor at the very least and consider when you're kayaking, the thing I saw today blew me away. Wind was blowing every bit of 15 mile per hour, getting some gust a little bit higher. The lake that I was at had about 1.5 foot rollers coming up to shore. Couple times saw a couple little rogue, mini rogue 2-footers come through, I'm guessing. But I'm sitting there on the shore contemplating whether or not I even want to launch in that and whether or not I want to, take water in the yak this morning. And I had seen there was one other guy in a kayak, kind of a catamaran style kayak, inflatable pontoons on the side, smaller than what I'd seen elsewhere. He was loaded to bear with fishing gear. He went out. And not for nothing, his craft was doing okay as far as, staying, it looked relatively stable. But as he got down to my end of the lake, as he was running like a weed line out there, it looked like he was fishing, I noticed he had no PFD on. None. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what could go through your brain? You see the weather is rough. You see the water is rough. You see the wind is blowing. Small craft, has a much higher opportunity to put itself in harm's way with weather. These things, this has got to start going through someone's head at some point or another. One other staggering statistic that came out of the drownings, according to the U.S. Coast Guard accident statistic, of those drownings that I was speaking about earlier, 8 out of every 10 boaters who drowned were using vessels less than 21 foot in length. So it is, my bass boat's 21 and change, so it's of the fishing boat community, the kayaking community, the canoe community. This is where these fatalities are coming from. And I don't care if it's 1 out of 1 million. You know what? Someone's got to win that lotto, and that's not a lotto you want to win. It just really isn't. And if you can do something very simple to adjust and change, man, it's, if you get yourself a good PFD, it's one and done. You buy that one and chances are it's going to last you for a lot of years if you take care of it and don't let it get torn and ripped. And it's the way they make them nowadays. There are some phenomenal brands out there. We run a Chinook from NRS. And I can tell you, I'm a bigger dude, man. I'm 6'1", about 240. I'm in this kayak and I'm fishing. That PFD does not get in my way. It doesn't hinder my arm movements. Nothing. Within a matter of minutes, you become accustomed to having it on and the motion becomes second nature. There are options available for you out there from just about any price range that you can look at. Then you can start getting into personal preference. Some people don't like the auto inflate. I'm one of those people. I prefer to know that my buoyancy is always there no matter what takes place. I don't need to wait for something to deploy. But others, Lord knows those they've built those to a safety standard. The manufacturers of those things and guys love them. And they've saved lives. There's no question about it. We've seen it firsthand. And there's people even in the in the rescue community that still use them for shore-based, just because you can barely tell you have them on. So there's options available, man. There's zero excuse for this. And as I said before, there doesn't need to be a law there for you to understand that, you know what, this is a common sense choice. Get that PFD on if you're out in a kayak. I don't care how good of a swimmer you are. Things happen out there. Okay. It's not going to ruin your day. This is, there's a mentality out there that, wants to protect our civil liberties and wants to protect our rights. And there is an argument for that. There's no question about it, because there are entities out there in the world that are, they just really don't care about your civil liberties or your civil rights. And they will take them under the name of, whatever. And unfortunately, somewhere in the line, this discussion of PFD, got gathered into that by somebody passing a law or telling me I have to wear one, that's taking my rights away. No, it's not. For the love of Pete, public safety and your safety. And again, I'm not even talking about laws. We don't need government involved in this. It's called common sense to check and make sure that you're doing something to make sure that you get home to your family, you get home to your loved ones, that you don't, in the event that something horrible happens to you out there, at the very least, you're not putting somebody else who has a family and loved ones in horrible danger of their own life to try to recover you. Because I can tell you, man, here, especially in Colorado, any dive is a dangerous dive. Our elevation creates all kinds of goofiness on the dive tables for these divers. They go into the water. They are absolutely putting their life, taking a risk every time they go out. Surface swimmers, this cold water that we have out here, that hypothermia kicks in a lot faster than you think. The temperature in your body gets pulled out so much faster when you're in contact with cold water, and like I said, hypothermia can start to kick in a bad fast hurry here. Listen, folks, this is these may be my opinions, but again, this is based in fact, based in statistics that are out there, and hopefully appealing to someone's common sense. There really is no excuse not to wear one. It just is not, it's bogus, whatever the excuse is. When you put yourself in those situations where, you're running a risk in this case, like I said, I can tell you, I've seen the worst of what happens when people don't. And I've seen what happens when people do. Ask anybody in that field, and chances are 99% of them will agree with these opinions that it's just a good, solid practice to do so. And we're so afraid to counteract those individuals who say, this is my choice. You try to get, it's almost like high school bully shamed in some of these. Someone will take a picture of somebody in a kayak without a PFD on. Next thing you know, somebody jumps out there. Oh, great. Here comes the wear a PFD crowd. Yeah, bonehead, because it's sound advice and we don't want to see people die. Okay? I mean, it's that simple. You don't want to see people needlessly die involved in outdoor recreation. If you can absolutely avoid it, if there's something that can be done to avoid putting more people at risk, and including yourself first and foremost, then absolutely do it. It's not that difficult. And no one's taking your civil liberties by telling you that, this is sound advice to wear one. So that's our opinion here. You got some comments on the topic, feel free, throw us some comments down here. This is where we stand on it. That's our let's talk about it. I'd be more than willing to discuss this with anyone, and have, good recourse there. Make sure to hit that subscribe for us on the podcast. We could use all the subscriptions we can get. That is always a big bonus for us out there. As usual, folks, tight lines, and above all, be safe. Peace.